Good morning. We are back and we having another little chat with Zane Weir after his experience in Tokyo with the Olympics 2020 in 2021 now. Morning, Zane. Welcome back.
Morning, Johan. Thank you for having me, man. Good to
Yeah.
be back.
So it's now official. You're an Olympian.
Yeah, exactly. What an experience. It's nice to come back and have the a different perspective from the first one.
Yeah. Yeah. So the first question, and it's a light-hearted
Yes.
question. Did you get your Olympian tattoo yet?
Not yet, not yet. I'm still deciding whether or not to get it. It's obviously an honor, but yeah, there's a few. One of the jobs I'm trying to look at getting here in Italy, you're not allowed to have tattoos, so I'm trying to
Oh,
hide the ones I have, and
yeah.
maybe after a few years I'll get it, but not yet, not yet.
Yeah, I've listened to someone, also a South African girl, um, also coming back from the Olympics, and the same question was posted to her. And she also
Okay.
almost had the same answer as no, she's definitely going to do it, but she's not sure when and where to put it. So
Okay, yeah.
yeah,
No, it's not something you want to rush.
no, 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 no.
Yeah.
Then so to get back to your experience and what you've learned, and I've got a couple of questions for you. You reach your dream of making it to the Tokyo Olympics. Tell us more about the on-field experience, going through the heats and then into the final.
It's a real whirlwind. To be honest, the heats was something special for me. I think the goal going into the Olympics was always to make the final, of course. I'm not naive, and I've only had, I would say, just over 18 months of professional sort of shot put experience. So going in there, I was just trying to enjoy the experience, and just absorb as much as I can and use it as a powerful stepping stone for the future. So yeah, going in, I think it was just trying to capitalize on all the things we had worked on over in Japan. We went over about 2.5 weeks before the games, actually before our competition, and it was the perfect storm in terms of I've been thinking a lot about the technique and working, and I visualized a heck of a lot, and just trying to like break down the technical puzzle that is the shot put technique.
Mm.
And so I think going into the competition, my focus was to execute what I'd been envisioning and working on in training. So I think that helped me a lot, because it's so easy to be extremely nervous and extremely overwhelmed with all the emotions that surround a big competition like that. But in hindsight now, I'm so glad that there's so many pictures of what happened, because it was such a blur. The qualification was really, I was in this a weird state where I really don't remember too much of what happened.
Yeah.
And when I went into the final, I tried to make a way more concerted effort to try and be present and enjoy what was happening. Especially the pressure was off, in a sense. I'd superseded a lot of expectations. I'd sort of got to where I wanted to be, and I really was focusing a lot on just enjoying the experience and having fun. I think that was really the most important thing for me.
Yeah. Do you think that with your heat, that you were in the same heat as Ryan Krause and some other big names, that it kind of settled you to prepare when you ended up in the final?
A little bit. Our game plan this year was to get into as many big competitions as we could. With my coach sort of spearheaded that strategy, because a lot of the time, if you're a good athlete, you get exposure to world class names from an early age. You're competing at them at international level, etc. And I went from literally no one in the shot put world. I actually had a look at the statistics, and in 2018 my PB was 15, or not PB, my season's best was 1577. And you fast forward to prior to the Olympic Games, which was 3 years later, and it's 2110.
Mm.
And so I never got any of that in between exposure. So my coach really was quite smart, and trying to get me into as many international competitions as possible, so that when I got there wasn't that sort of spectator factor where you're sort of thrown with these guys that you've sort of seen your whole life and looked up to, and you become a spectator and not a competitor. So when I got in there, I was really obviously an honor to throw with the world record holder and a lot of these other guys that I've watched from afar for so long. But again, I think it was exciting to be a part of, but that excitement didn't last very long, because I was really just so maybe selfishly involved in what I had to do. Because a big concern of mine was the weight in between throws. That's something in South Africa and even in Italy to a certain extent that you can't prepare for. To wait for 16 throwers before you,
Yeah.
It's a different competition. So
right.
I was really trying to use that time positively and in a sort of spaced out way, so that I wasn't ready to throw too early, or I wasn't sort of how do you say, I wasn't sort of like very reserved by the time it came to throw, because there's been such a big wait in between. I think there was probably 16 throwers. It probably took around between 15 and 20 minutes to throw, which is something completely new to the format that I've been involved in.
Yeah.
So
okay. How important was this experience and the end result for you as a person and as an athlete?
I think I'm not actually quite sure of how important it's going to be. I think there's still a lot that will unfold. But I think, a turning point, I think, for me, from a personal perspective in professional sport came, we went and watched the Olympic discus men's final. And I remember sitting there and, obviously when you watch on TV, it's the Olympics and there's the hype and there's, everything that your perception of what the Olympics is. And I remember sitting, I think we're like in the second row of chairs from the field and watching, and I saw it unfold, and I saw Stahl and Peterson, obviously from Sweden, get first and second. And I remember it really hit me intensely. And I thought, like, you've got the opportunity to be here and to do something that is shocking. It was for the first time, so, these are normal men and women that are, go through the same emotional sort of stresses, the same form worries, all these sorts of things. It really hit me for the first time, like, you're here, and you have the opportunity to just, do what you've been working and sacrificing so much for. So it was a moment of peace, I think, because, you can hold everyone up on such a high pedestal.
Yeah.
And it was such an awesome moment, and it really, like I say, the perfect storm. There was so much that happened that was just, it just happened, and I was like, wow, how beneficial, and it was just like, I think most of those things were a result of that, was just my confidence and my peace going into the competition. It was really something I've never experienced before, and something I'm extremely thankful for.
Yeah. Okay. So you talk about getting into high-level competitions. What is your immediate plans after Tokyo? Is there Diamond League coming up? Is there more bigger meetings coming up soon?
Yeah, so there's a Diamond League in Lausanne. So I've been invited to that. So that's, I think it's on the 26th. That'll be my next big competition. And then there's a few in Italy. There's one in Rovereto. There's another one in Padova. So there's a few I think I've got. And then I've also got club championships on the 16th of September, which I think will be my last competition before I head back to South Africa for a little rest. But, I know a lot of people have, after the Olympics, have taken time off and, really, recuperating for the next season. But I'm quite excited to get back into the sort of competition realm and work. To be honest, my life is sort of so one track that it's without the shot put, especially here in Italy, where there's very little sort of stimulation for me outside of shot put at this point in my life. It's really exciting. I'm so motivated and just want to carry on. I feel like I've really unlocked a few technical feelings that I have never felt before, and so I'm really looking forward to continuing that and seeing where that takes me. It's really exciting.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So talking about your technique, what learnings did you take away from Tokyo, being in that environment? All those athletes, not only track and field athletes, but that environment, that the athletes' village. Did you speak to people? What learnings did you take away?
I think that's a good question. I think the biggest thing for me was how normal everyone is, or perceived anyway. I chatted to a few people, but COVID, I think, has changed the mentality of a lot of people. A lot of people are scared and worried, and you don't want to get to the Olympic Village and then get COVID 2 days before your event and then miss it. So people were quite scarce to interact with. But I think the biggest thing for me is, even within sport, I really work hard on being self-aware and being a human being before a sports person. And I think in an environment like that, where there is so much sort of nervous energy and maybe anxiety. I think, there's one thing that is just so grounding. It's who you are. And I think, if anything, that's probably the most important factor that I've experienced for an athlete. It has to be self-awareness, and doing things, in a genuine, good-hearted, kind way, because when you're in those environments where you're actually just acting based on sort of primal instinct, because it's just so much adrenaline going through your veins. I think if there's anything that's calming, it's the stability of who you are. So I think that's one thing for me. It was awesome to feel that in an environment where the emotions were just so high, and it's really, really exciting. I think for me, sports and achieving in professional sports is really not enough. I think being true to myself and enjoying who I am and having good relationships around me, I think is probably the most exciting thing that sports offers me.
Okay, so going into the final. So you're in the final, and
yes.
It's I'm not saying it's a surprise, but I mean it's something you work for. But you're in the final. So what was the last piece of advice or discussion you had with your coach before leaving him and entering the arena?
To be honest, at that point, everything's said and done. I just remember sort of like handshaking and hugging him all in one. I think he was super proud. Get a bit emotional thinking about, he sacrificed so much for me to be in a position to have qualified, never mind to actually be there and be in the final. I mean, even now, no questions asked after the competition. We've just come straight back to his house. He's got a spare place for me to sleep. He feeds me, treats me really as one of his own children. So, I'm obviously chuffed with the performance, but I think just being able to achieve that for him, who has so invested in my journey, I think is so special and so rewarding for me. And so I think, there was no advice. And I think he said something along the lines of, is like, you've done the work, just have fun now. And it was perfect, because that's exactly what was my mentality going in. Because you don't have time to think, so you really just focus on the enjoyment.
Yeah. Talking about that, going into the final, on a reality, what was your expectations? Okay, I'm in the final. I'm going to work hard. I mean, that's obviously the mentality when you get put in that position. But did you see yourself of having a chance on being in the top 8?
Definitely. To be honest, going into the final, I really felt incredible. The whole training camp, and there was this like feeling that was unfamiliar to me, but it was just honestly a serene sense of confidence. And I really, after that discus final, watching that, feeling what I felt as a response of what happened there, I remember just thinking to myself, like, you can medal. And it might be naive, you can't control medals at all. There's so many. I mean, my distance of 21:41 would have medaled at every Olympics ever happened except this one. So if I were to try and work it from a statistics perspective, 21:41 should have been enough. And so that's why I think going into competitions, it's lovely to dream and work for and have those things that motivate you. But at the end of the day, if you're throwing personal bests, and you're enjoying the experience, there really is nothing else that you should be working for. So I think that was it for me. After getting the personal best in the qualification, my coach said to me, he says, he was just so happy, and he says, all you have to do in the final is throw 1 centimeter more. It's a good strategy.
Okay. Do you have a word or mantra that you say to yourself when you're competing?
Yeah, as I get into the circle, there's that moment where you just realize it's like everything you're about to do now is matters, and it's overwhelming whether you want to admit it or not. It's overwhelming. And I do it in practice as well when I get into the circle, and I just think to myself, and sometimes I even say, and I just say, you're the best in the world. And really it gives me such a sense of peace, because I know how much work I put in. I know how long I've been working for, and I truly believe at some point the sacrifice, the level of discipline that I do in obviously the sports arena, but every area of my life, I truly believe that it has to pay off. So this results come, I think, a little bit quicker than a lot of people realized, almost myself included. But I think, when you go through all the the difficulties of sacrifice, or the difficulties of discipline, sometimes you think you can deserve things, and I don't necessarily think I deserve anything, but you definitely a lot more confident in the results that shock other people. So
Yeah.
I think that mantra of you're the best in the world, which I really do believe and try and embody, that's really something that gives me such confidence going into that that split second of technical explosion.
Yeah. I've been we know each other for some time now. Not everyday basis, but
Sure.
And I've seen you growing up from a schoolboy into where you are today, and I've seen some photos that was taken. There was one photo that I saw where you like fist up in the air, and you just looked strong. I think it was a photo from the heats, just after the heats or something. The question I want to ask you about that is, what was your emotions when you left the stadium after the final?
Just gratitude. I remember just feeling so thankful, because in an environment like that, there were giants in the sport. Guys that had potential to medal that didn't even make the final. There's so many things that you're not in control of, and I think for me it was just complete gratitude that the things that I could control I did, and I feel like I did superbly. And then I think the things that are normally uncontrollable just went in my way. I really do think there's a lot of your sort of internal dialogue, your internal thoughts, and your behavior influences those uncontrollables. So, I don't necessarily think it's completely uncontrollable, but there's certain things you have to surrender to fate. And I've had a good run with fate up until this point, and I think it gives me confidence to just surrender myself to that, especially in those environments. Like I say, I think, knowing who you are and having your intentions be as good as they can, I think really just gives you that peace amongst the otherwise chaos.
Yeah. Okay. So next question. Going forward, you're still a youngster within shot put.
Sure.
Previous discussion, we talked about size and all that, and your special technique that you can compete at this level. 3 years from now, the next Olympics, World Championships, all those. There's a new generation of shot putters coming through. Do you think that you can become a force in shot put?
Without a doubt. I think if not already, I think I've shocked a lot of people. 21-41 without tooting my own horn, but to try and put it into perspective, because shot put's at such a high level now that it's easy. Fifth, I think, is an incredible performance in any sort of level, but I think specifically now, having 3 guys throw over 22 in an Olympic final, I think is the first time that's ever happened. Ryan Krause, fresh off breaking a world record, being 7 centimeters short. It's really of such a high standard. And, like you say, being my age, being my weight, first of all, I think easily probably 25 kgs lighter than the second lightest person there, which is not necessarily an excuse, because I can put on weight if I want, but this is the process. We were never looking immediately at peaking for this Olympics. When you learn a technique, it's a 3-4 year experience, and Paris 2024 was always the goal. So to have done as well as I have now has been incredible. But I definitely think with these small breakthroughs of technical breakthroughs that I've had now, combined with a few more years of the discipline and dedication that I've shown up until this point, God willing, and without having any injuries, I think, you can only have positive results in a professional environment. So I'm excited. I feel like strangely a fan of myself. If I try and look at it, outside of myself, there's so much to be excited about, and I think that's such an important part of professional sport, because it can be monotonous, and it can be extremely under stimulating at certain points. So to be a fan of, I think,
sometimes very alone.
Completely. Yeah. So I think to be a fan of yourself and your potential is a very fortunate, privileged position to be in.
Yeah. No, okay. So there's a question of 2. So going to Olympics, you ranked number 2 in Italy. The number 1 didn't make it into the final. So like we say, anything can happen in those in those sort of environments. And then after the final, I saw a photo of your silent Kabbalah from South Africa. What was the feeling for both of you to stand proud and being in the final and making it into the top 8? Was there a discussion afterwards, or?
Yeah, we actually hung out quite a bit prior to the competition, in the dining hall and stuff, and then also afterwards. I think, in the beginning of 2019, I went up to Joburg, and I think for about a month or two trained, with that group before the sad news of obviously Pierre Blichnot getting mouth cancer. So we've, that was a sort of opportunity where we bonded a bit, and I think it was honestly so special to be able to have that moment. I mean, he did incredibly well to be 21 years old and come 6th at Olympics. I think it's the best a South African has ever finished. Yeah. To do that so young, he really is a special talent. And it was throughout the whole competition. I think even in the final, I went 2085 or 2084 my first throw. And then fortunately I was good enough to make the final 8. And then when I threw, he had thrown 21 in his third throw, so he was ahead of me. And when I threw the 2140 in my fourth throw, he celebrated like someone that was completely independent of the competition. So just like that level of support, and like obviously we're competitive against each other in a way, but I think it's more what I enjoy about shot put. It's more competition against yourself, and I think to be able to put the competition to the side and have the sportsmanship to celebrate something like that was special for me. And I think it was an extremely sort of bonding moment for the both of us to finish as well as we did, to have the little history that we have. A great guy, extremely happy for him and the future of South African shot put, of course. But more so just for the relationship that we have. It's special to have someone that is so sort of selfless and supportive of you as well as a competitor.
That's right. Yeah. We make through sport, we make friends. Sometimes we make very, very good friends. And although we might compete against each other, we still support each other within a competition.
Sure.
You're talking about being a fan of yourself. And I've chatted to a couple of people after your results, and I think your fan base has grown a lot. Especially down obviously in KZN and Durban. And but we really want to congratulate you on it, and we are very, very proud of it. And we're definitely looking forward to see where this goes. We want to see you being that 22-meter thrower, up there every time, and upset the works in the coming years. And we'll definitely keep on supporting you. Yeah. So after your competition, I had a chat to your father. I gave him a call the afternoon. Well, South African time, the afternoon, and. Just listening to him, he was, I've known your dad also a couple of years, and he was so calmly very excited and proud, and I'm sure you can't wait to land back in South Africa and see the old man and your mother.
Of course, you're going to make me cry. But no, it's really, I think the pride of my parents has been something that I think it's sustained me for a long time. It's difficult, like you said. It has been and has the potential to be such a lonely journey. But they completely financially funded me to head up to Joburg. Being a 1691 meter thrower, to put that into perspective, it's really crazy. I think fortunately they know me and know my level of discipline and that sort of thing. Yeah. But like I say, 2018, my season's best was 1577. My personal best was 1691. And, anyone with a rational mindset would have said, Zane, maybe start looking for a job, myself included, and so, the sacrifice that they've made for me has been incredible. And I think, I owe a lot of my success, if not sort of all of it to them, because without that support, I really wouldn't be here, because financially I couldn't have done it for the last sort of 2 years, and they've been extremely kind and supportive, and flip it. I can't wait to go back and celebrate with them, because I think it's as much theirs as it is mine.
Yeah. No, I said to you, Father, we're gonna definitely, myself and him will get together, and we'll definitely have a beer on you, and maybe we'll put a pause on that till you back, and then we all three can sit down. Yeah.
Please. I should be home around just after mid-September. So it would be an honor. Exactly. That would be great.
That would be like it. Zane, thank you so much for the chat, and all the best, and keep on doing the guard graft, like they say, and we'll catch up. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. No, you're welcome. Thank you. Also, it's so nice to have these sort of interviews, in a sense, to just reflect and share the experience, because obviously I feel it a lot, but it's so nice to have to put into words and have other people that are actually interested in it. So thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
No, that's perfect. Thank you.
Awesome.
Cheers. Cheers, bye.